Hey, Bentbrook here. I am off to a crazy start so far. It is 7 o'clock. As you can tell, the sun has gone down. There's a beautiful moon. But I'm at the Robbins Branch trailhead of the Uwharries National Forest, Burkhead Wilderness area. And I've never been on this trail before, so I don't know where I'm going. Overshot my exit, so I ended up losing the last bit of daylight I could have had. And then realized that I'd forgotten to pack my straps for my hammock. So I cannibalized straps that I had, ratchet straps that I happen to have in my truck, and they'll work just fine. But anyway, late start. I'll keep you posted.
There is always something eerie about moving in the darkness in places that are totally unknown, particularly when the threats in that area, like timber rattlesnakes, are very well known. The mind can play tricks on you, but it isn't always just your mind. Sometimes you hear the sound off to the side of the trail, the sound whose source you can't discover. Something moved, something in the bushes, but you never know what. And then abruptly, out of the darkness, you see something. For no particular reason, I decide to go to the right in the direction of Hannah's trail. After catching the glare of a million spiders' eyes, it is a relief to find these two frogs staring back at me in a puddle. The Avenza PDF app works great.
It's a nice little creek. My experience in the past in the Uwharries has been that sometimes the creeks are kind of empty. Okay. Here's the first campsite. All right.
There is something comforting in the ritual lighting of a lantern at a campsite at night, something that staves off your fears and allows you to begin to make a place in the wilderness feel a bit like home. With this light in place, I'm able to take my time setting up my camp. With a favorable forecast that calls for no rain, all I will do is set up a hammock with an underquilt and a top quilt in it.
Hey, Ventbrook back. I am in my camp. It's about 30 minutes in from the trailhead, and it's right by Robbins Branch, or Hannah's Creek, I guess it is. So Hannah's Creek is that way. I don't know if you can see it at night in the distance, but maybe 20 feet away. So here's my makeshift hammock hammock straps. These are obviously just things I had in my truck, and I'm using them for this. I guess I ought to figure out what the strength is. Well, I'll read that before I sleep in it. I'm using lark's head. Lark's head. No, it's not a lark's head. Drawing a blank on this. It'll come back to me. Anyway, toggles and whoopee slings down to my hammock. My hammock, as you can see here, is a Trek-Lite Gear double. I have a Zingit zip line, to which I have my gear loft. Just has some zippers here. These are things that I sewed together using this ribbon, basically, and I leave it inside of my hammock when I stow my hammock. I'm using a Snug Pack Jungle Blanket inside for top quilt. I don't think I'm going to need much. On the outside, I have a Snug Pack Jungle Blanket for a underquilt as well. And I'm going from a holly tree, which is quite stout, to a dogwood, also stout, but both of them give. So it's going to be kind of a gentle night of give and take, I think, here. Over here I have my candle lantern, Yuko, and it's lighting my sight when I don't have my headlamp on. So that's about it. I'm going to turn my eyes and thoughts to fire before long. So tonight is the maiden camping trip for my black walnut spoon that I carved. As I have told others, I wanted to leave it imperfect as a reminder that it was carved out of a block of wood. But I really love it. It has a great feel to it. I like the thick handle and the smooth scalloping here. I used 600 grit sandpaper on this to smooth it out. So tonight I'm going to get to use it to see how the stew is with it. I have to say there is contentment that comes from watching food warm over an open fire. This little stove is decent enough given its cost, which is around $10, $13. It originally came with a paint coating that burned off with the first usage, so what you're looking at here is what happens after a variety of burns. I don't know how long it'll last because it's not terribly well made. There's a ring, for example, that holds the sides together that is pretty flimsy, but it seems to be pretty good. It weighs a fair amount. But again, for the cost, it's getting the job done here, as you can tell. I have to have my morning coffee, and today I'm experimenting with this homemade pack that I have. I took a filter and some kite twine and I filled it with coffee grounds, and basically that's it. So I'm going to drop it into my pot of boiling water here, and I'm going to let it simmer for a while, and I'm going to see if it makes decent coffee over a period of time. So this is the spoon and fork combination that came with the Kershaw Camp Kit, and it's one of two pieces that I've brought. This is the other. It's a little G10 flipper knife that I've kind of grown fond of. It's fairly lightweight and good for camp. Anyway, I'm going to use this spoon. I like it because it fits easily in a small pot, and therefore it's very packable. It does weigh a lot, and I don't like that aspect of it, but for basic use like this on a trip where I'm not hiking a long way, it is probably going to be perfectly adequate. Somehow life is reduced to its most basic when you are watching water boil. I never tire of this, whether in person or watching videos on YouTube. I hope you enjoy it as well. Well, the coffee seems to be doing the job. I think I might pack it a little more loosely to allow better water circulation within the filter, but I think that's a win. I decided to go for a stroll with my morning coffee, and I found this beautiful campsite nestled next to some rapids. I listened all night to these rapids, and they made for excellent sleeping from where I was nearby. So this end is coming down from the camp that was by the rapids, and it has a little bit of a rapid right behind this tree here. And this is where it merges with the little creek that I was camping on last night. So the two of them join together here and head off that way. Really pretty, really very nice.
Morning has brought with it the reassurance of familiar sights of trees and bushes and creeks, but of course it also means that all good things must come to an end, and it is time for me to leave.
I'm on my way out this morning. It's about a 30-minute hike back to my truck, and there wasn't a whole lot of elevation gain or loss, but there was this descent, which you see ahead of me, down to the little creek that I crossed and on which I camped last night. So we'll start out in the morning, which is fine, with a little bit of an uphill, nothing major. But these are really nice mixed woods in here, a fair number of pines mixed in with hardwoods, a lot of holly trees actually, and I don't know what the deal is with that. But anyway, we're on our way out. Hey, Ben Brook here. I just want to talk briefly about kind of the moral of the story. This is sort of a nothing ventured, nothing gained kind of thing. Yesterday it was late in the day and I was tired and I was losing daylight, and I overshot my exit for the campsite or the wilderness area I was headed to, and I was feeling kind of discouraged. I turned down the road that I knew had to lead to my access point, and I had no idea what I was looking for, and it was dark, and I was kind of concerned about that too. On top of all of that, I had washed the tree straps for my hammock, and I left them in the dryer before I left home. So I didn't even know what I was going to use to hang my hammock. I had some paracord, plenty of paracord in my pack. I don't like to use paracord on trees because it cuts into the bark and it's not good for the tree. I guess I could have spread out like 4 layers of that if I'd had to. But anyway, when I got to the campsite or to the access point, it was a very welcoming pine forest. I don't know how to describe it, but in the evening it seemed quiet and peaceful. And that was a great deal of joy that it brought me as a consequence of that. And when I got to the place where I was parking, it was a nice open parking area, and I was able to take some straps off of some ratchets that I had for tying down gear, and I was able to use that for my hammock hanging straps. And so then I ventured into the woods. I had no idea where I was going, and going down paths I'd never been on before. And if it's after dark and you're in an area and there are already reports of snakes out, and you know that there are timber rattlesnakes and copperheads and things like that in that area, and you don't really know where you're headed, it can be daunting. Your brain can play tricks on you, even if you're an experienced outdoorsman. Fatigue can set in, and you're just going to ask yourself, is it really worth it? And that can be sort of self-defeating. So I guess what I want to say is, if you find yourself in that kind of circumstance, go ahead and give it a chance. Get outside. Wow, lots of vultures on the side of the road here. Go ahead and give it a chance and see what happens. And sleeping last night in my hammock in a little creek bottom, beautiful, perfect temperature. It was cool but not too cold. Felt great to be under a little blanket and listening to the chorus of tree frogs and things like that. It was absolutely awesome. So go out there and grab it. Seize the opportunity, do it. This was a small scale. This was nothing major. This was not some huge accomplishment by any means, but it was just me kind of pushing through the fatigue that I was feeling and the questions that I had in my mind, the doubts that I had about trying something out for the first time in the dark, an area that I was unfamiliar with, on trails I was unfamiliar with, and it worked out beautifully. So if you have an opportunity, I'm just encouraging you to, don't do anything silly or stupid. Obviously evaluate the risks. These risks were minimal. It was more mental fatigue and doubt and things like that. But if you have a chance, go for it. You'll be happy you did it.